Hello. Um, Today for literacy, we're going to be looking at some vocabulary words. So we're going to review our vocabulary word from Monday, which was genre. And I'm going to introduce the word likeness. Um, Also, today you need to make sure that you uploaded your narrative draft number 1, which was assigned yesterday. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. Then we're going to talk about engaging beginnings. And then the rest of your day, you'll have time to do your read aloud, chapter 7, part 1, and then silent reading for your book club with a book club reflection in a Google form. So, first, let me talk about the narrative draft number 1. On Monday, you were supposed to have chosen a small moment to turn into a story. From your bubble brainstorm that we did, and you were supposed to write the whole story and then upload it to Canvas. And so you're going to need to return to Monday's slide to click on the assignment link. But it is there and it's on Canvas. If you can't find it, please again, just go to the 9/28 Monday slide and read through the directions there, and you'll see a link to that assignment to upload your narrative draft. Okay, so let me move on to vocabulary. So yesterday's word was genre, and genre is a noun, so it's a person, place, or thing. Genre is a category of literary or artistic work. It's not just about books. You can have it for movies. You can have it for artistic, like paintings and things like that. There's different genres of things. Synonyms, so similar words would be style or category. What category does it fall into? And topics that you could write about, these are different types of genres. So you have fantasy, realistic fiction, historical fiction. And then the picture that I chose is actually, I just put a bunch of books and they have their genres listed on the side. I thought that was kind of nice. For my showing sentence, I did Full Tilt by Neal Shusterman as part of a genre or style of literature called science fiction. There's a little bit of a debate. Is it more fantasy oriented or is it more science fiction-y oriented? But I like to put it in the camp of science fiction. So I have my word, which is genre. I have my synonym or style. And then I have my topic. I'm talking about the book Full Tilt and the genre of science fiction. So you want to make sure that you have that information in your showing sentence, like what genre is it? Because if you just say, well, if you don't give me a genre example, then we're not really dealing with the word genre. Okay. Let's see if I can go back to the previous slide here. Okay. Today's word, though, is likeness. It is a noun. The definition for likeness is being like something else. It's the state of being like something else. A synonym would be similarity. Topic examples, things that I thought of. There's this one character from the X-Men. Her name is Mystique, and she's like all blue, and she has like red hair. She was played by the girl from Hunger Games in the start over movies. It doesn't matter. But anyway, she can take on the likeness of anybody. Breeds of dogs and cats have likenesses to each other. Some are closely related, while others have no likeness whatsoever. And then I also thought of family members. And so over for my picture, I have a picture of the Gilmore Girls, like mother, like daughter. They look very similar. They have a lot of likenesses. And then for my showing sentence, I took that same route and I said the likenesses or similarities between fathers and sons are common. So they come up, a lot. I mean, how many times have you been told, oh my goodness, you look like this family member? So that's kind of where that word works. So that's our word for today. Now, today, I wanted to talk about the different ways that we can start a narrative. And since you've already written yours, it's a good thing to now go back and think about how could I have started my story in a stronger way. So we're kind of going back and looking at ways to improve the narrative that we've already begun. And so there's a lot of different ways that we can start a narrative that's supposed to be gripping or that can actually hook your reader and make them want to continue reading. So what we have things like dialogue, onomatopoeia, personal opinion, mysterious statement, persuasive statement, shocking statement, and then at the very end, I'm going to show you some of my examples. So the first one that we have here is dialogue. Dialogue is what it is. It means that you start your story with something, people talking or you saying something. It's pretty straightforward. So for example, let's get a home run, I shouted. The game was tied at the bases and the bases were loaded. It all started the day when I woke up excited to go to the game. And now we're like, oh, okay, cool. Like something amazing is going to happen at the ballpark. So we can start our story with dialogue. That's one example. Another example is onomatopoeia. And onomatopoeia, these are those words that make the sounds. So it's like crack, thwip, whap, pow, stuff like that. Okay. So this particular one starts with onomatopoeia. Crack, the baseball bat burst into a million pieces after the player hit the ball with such force. So we have that sound effect. And when you hear that sound effect, you can actually visualize kind of the ball hitting the bat. And so if you want to start with onomatopoeia and jump into like an action point, you can do something like that. So onomatopoeia is another example that you could use. And you can Google onomatopoeia and see what kind of words come up. And maybe something will just jump out at you. It'll be like snap or zap or zoom, slam, stuff like that. The next one that we have is you can actually start with personal opinion. Your narrative should have been written from a first person point of view, and it is a piece that's kind of connected to you. So you can start with something of an opinion, and then it gets readers hooked in because they're like, well, why do they have that opinion? We want to know more about why you feel that way. So an example of a personal opinion is, in my opinion, I think that going to the baseball game was the most fantastic day of my life. I had saved my money for 2 years to buy the third row seats. So right there, you have that kind of opinion. And now I want to know, why did you save your money for that long to get those seats? And so it brings your reader in. Another way that you can start your story is to use a mysterious statement. And mystery kind of gets people guessing, and it's fun to write too, because you want them to wonder, what is it? And so if you can kind of get a bit of mystery into your statement. So for example, there was a strange feeling that came over me when I walked into the baseball park for the first time. It felt like I had been there before. What? Okay, well, why did it feel like you had been there before? Now I want to know. I want that information. Another one is persuasive statement. So here you're trying to persuade people to maybe, experience what you've experienced because it was so important for you. I think you should also maybe experience something like this once in your life. So here's an example of that. Everyone needs to go to at least one baseball game in their lifetime. You never know. It could become the best day of your life. Okay, so if you're writing about a trip that you went somewhere, or a restaurant that you went to, or a food that you tried for the first time, these could be things that you could use a persuasive statement to try. Everyone needs to try sushi at least one time in their life, something like that. Then we have a shocking statement, and this can really bowl over your reader. And again, it makes them want to know more about what it is that you're sharing with us. So an example would be, the team had won the World Series since 1938. I knew this was going to be their year to win. What? They hadn't won the World Series since 1938 and it's 2020. What's going on? So you might be interested in like these factual pieces of information. did you know the Grand Canyon is like 1,000,000 feet wide or something like that? That's not a fact. Don't use that. But that would be an example of a shocking statement. Just make it factual. Because we'd want to know, well, why are you sharing that shocking statement about how big the Grand Canyon is? And then you share your story with us. So some examples that I have, I chose personal opinion, onomatopoeia, and shocking statement. And I chose to write my narrative about my trip to Disney World with my mom. So for personal opinion, here's how you could write an engaging beginning. It is my very unpopular opinion that Disney World is not the happiest place on earth. I didn't used to think this when I went there in 1991, but my feelings have changed drastically over the years. My trip, though, didn't start out with that overwhelming of a position, but certain events solidified it. For onomatopoeia, I chose to take it to the very first kind of engagement of this trip happening. Ring, ring. I knew as my phone gave off the familiar ringtone of an old landline phone that it was my mom. The topic of conversation was already at the forefront of my mind. Disney World. What? Okay, so you know that my story is going to be about Disney World, and you know it has something to do with my mom. And then shocking statement. I hadn't been to Disney World since 1991. I was 10 years old, and at the time, I was excited to go. I had fond memories of that trip, so when my daughter started expressing an interest in going, my husband and I started to consider it. So here you have, my story is going to be about Disney World. You know that, hey, I had some good memories about that, and it's going to involve my family, my husband, my daughter, and I. Okay, so I introduce these important pieces of information while also trying to grip my reader to find interest in, well, what are they writing about? What are they going to be sharing with me in their story? Okay, and so for the rest of this time, what I'm asking that you do is I want you to pick three of the headings, and I want you to write, and I want you to test write three different beginnings. So I want you to pick three of the different types of beginnings, just like I did here. I chose personal opinion, onomatopoeia, and shocking statement. And I tried to write an intro for my story using these different ways of writing an intro. And so that's what we're going to be working on today. At the end of sharing, at the end of this, we'll be sharing some of our examples, and that's what we worked on today. And then for the rest of everything, if you could please check Canvas and look at our day, Tuesday, September 29th, to see what exactly the rest of your requirements are for the day. If you have questions, please email me, and I can't wait to read your engaging